Welcome back, everyone, to Stay in Your Lane. I'm your host, John Mahle, brought to you by Triple T Transport today. Two very, very good friends of mine that I respect a great deal. Lewie Pugh from OOIDA. Everyone knows Lewie. You see him all over social media, Capitol Hill, legislation, fighting for the owner-operator. And no one likes an owner-operator more than I do. What a wonderful career. Great people. And also with us today, Pat Musser, formerly with H.B. Hood, 46 years in transportation. You've covered I would say, the gamut. Very few people I've even met in the industry have the experience that Pat has, starting out with LTL, software, and transportation, then running a private fleet, and then 24, 25 years with H.B. Hood?
Correct.
So you kind of grew that baby all by yourself with a lot of help of good people that you've taught and trained and developed. So I would say I'm in the deep end of the pool here with you two. Today's subject matter for all of us to get into and kind of peel the onion back on is really understanding the broker transparency thing that I know you seem to be passionate about, Lewie. Understanding your perspective, what the goals are. So at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and let you share with us what your perspective is on it.
Yeah, of course, OOIDA, we support the broker transparency thing. We're the ones who petitioned for it, actually, back in 2020. If you recall, when COVID first started, rates went through the floor. A lot of truckers went to D.C. and were down there screaming and hollering and protesting that, that brokers were trying to rip them off and that the rates had that the rates really hadn't dropped, but the brokers were just taking away more and stuff like that. With that being said, there's been a law on the books since the 1980s, 371.3, which is the broker transparency bill, which says all folks who are party of this transaction have rights to see all paperwork of transaction. So anyway, with that being said and everything that was going on, what happens is too many brokers, they ask truckers to exempt themselves from that regulation in their broker carrier agreement, so they can't see these documents once they haul a load. And so with all the stuff that happened in 2020, we petitioned FMCSA in 2020 because the way for the brokers, because the brokers said they weren't scamming truckers, the way to prove that is, if they haul a load for you, let them see the paperwork like the regulation says. The other big issue, the reason OOIDA petitions for this and is pushing so hard for this, and this is because we see too many bad brokers out there, and there's lots of good brokers, lots of good people to work for, but too many bad ones out there. A couple larger ones, very large ones, they will come back after a trucker gets a clean bill of lading, week, 2 weeks, month, whatever, and say, hey, there was a claim on this load. Now the trucker's delivered the load, thinks he's got no problems, left with a nice clean bill of lading, and they're saying that they owe him 1,500, 15, or whatever the case may be for this claim. Truckers will turn around and say, well, I'd like to see proof. Broker says, we don't have to show you proof because you exempted your right to 371.3. Or the other thing they do, which most of them do that, they'll say, well, if you want to see the paperwork, you can come into our office between 9 and 5 or 7 and 3 or whatever their hours are, and we'll show you here. Well, that's okay if the trucker travels in that, but if you take a load from Ohio to Florida and the broker's in California and you never go out there, there's no opportunity to see that either. So that's the other thing we wanted, is this to be electronic, where you can show electronically. I mean, we know that everybody today uses electronic, signatures and DocuSign, all this thing. That's standard procedure, so there's no reason this couldn't be. So those are the two reasons that we did this. We're not trying to re-regulate. We're not trying to make new rules. We don't believe that any business entity has a right to tell another business entity that they can waive their right from federal law. They have to. That we don't think that's even legal. I mean, if I hired some drivers to drive my trucks, I don't think I can have them sign a paper to exempt their rights to hours of service and stuff like that. So again, that's the two main reasons that we've asked for this and we've pushed for this. And the brokers, they asked to have this rule removed, which they were well within their right, and FMCSA did turn that down.
Well, that's first off, thank you for a very clear depiction of what the motivation is. I have some thoughts, and when you say things like there's a claim, but no one wants to share the actual claim documentation. I have a problem with that. I mean,
I do too.
You're not going to get a fight out of us on this one. I also think that during COVID, I would say there was probably a 3-month period of time where things kind of dipped, and then it opened up and went 180 degrees the other direction. I think transparency is a good thing between all parties at a specific level where it benefits everybody involved. But I'm going to stop talking now. I want to get Pat Musser's perspective here. Pat, I'm dying to hear this.
I can understand in the claim scenario where you should be entitled to all the documents to substantiate the proof, right? You need that. I can understand it in that situation. I guess my question would be, from your standpoint and the carrier standpoint, what do you end up doing with the documents? If you got the documents and you're looking at them, what is the end goal to do with those documents?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, of course, if it's a claim, the document, you have to make sure that they're charging you correctly. Because what we see these happen is these are always even numbered claims, and nothing's even numbered.
But if
no pennies in there.
But as far as the other documents, I mean, the way we look at this, again, it's already on the books, but if you're hauling for a good broker who's taking fair information, and you haul load for that broker and say you feel like they cheated you or took too much, and a lot of this is educational, learning your lanes and knowing stuff, rates in different areas, but it gives you an opportunity, just like in 2020 when we had this dip. You could have seen real quick that brokers probably weren't scamming you as bad as what you thought, because the rates just dropped, the bottom dropped out of it, and gives you education to know whether this is somebody you want to continue to work with or this is somebody you don't. I mean, for our sake, if you're an honest, straightforward broker and you're taking a fair amount and treating your carrier good, you'll never have a problem. I mean, but if you're one of these people, and as we've seen, especially through COVID, brokers have exploded, the amount of brokers out there, and then we have all the fraudsters as well. But with all that being said, at least you're working for good people and not people that's just trying to rip truckers off and take all they can. And those people not only hurt truckers, but they hurt brokers.
They hurt us every day.
No, and I think too, in looking at the documents, because I've been on that end before as well, if a broker, let's say, goes by the wayside, and now the carrier's coming after you looking for payment, and you actually have what you paid the broker, and then you can see what the carrier was charging. There are instances where you're seeing it both ways, where you perhaps underpaid, and then there are times when you were overpaying. So you are seeing both of those in that instance. But I think a different complexity to it is when you're looking at the paperwork and say, my agreement is with the broker and it's, let's say, seasonal freight, where at times that rate is very low because of the season that you're running in. And then if you look at it, 3 or 4 months later, it's a very different number you're looking at.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And again, this is partially for education on a trucker.
Yes.
Because if you're a trucker who doesn't understand seasonal rates or stuff, because again, just like we had an explosion of truckers, brokers, we've had an explosion of people getting their motor carrier authority. Again, it will give them the tools to see too. And also, it'd be very easy if the trucker thinks that the rates are lower, they can say, well, ask the broker, and the broker can say, hey, this is seasonal freight, buddy. When you're down here this time of year, we got lots of freight and it doesn't pay well. And when you're down here this other time of the year, for rates are at the premium, and they can see that, because for far too long, as we all know, there's been this hate against truckers and brokers. It's just this automatic hate. And again, I go back to, there's a lot of good people to work for, and I tell people all the time, trucking and being profitable in trucking is all about connections and knowing who you work for.
Correct.
And and again, the way we look at this is an opportunity to help build that bond and show that both parties are getting a fair shake. I mean, brokers got to make a living too. There's no doubt about it. If they don't make a profit, they're not in business. But truckers have to make a profit as well. And we know that there's brokers out there who take way too much off the top, or are just here to, take all they can and leave that carrier and worry about the next. And unfortunately, that's a shame. And that's why I said this gets to where hopefully this will take some of these bad people out of our market and help all of us.
Yeah, and then I think too, another different perspective to look at it from a shipper standpoint is if you're doing RFPs and that's a year-long commitment, or let's say you got a 2-year commitment, we all know that the volatility in the market can change so fast nowadays. Where if I accepted an RFP bid in a certain lane, 3-6 months from now, it could take a plummet or it could escalate. So I think there's a variety of what the market can do to you in an RFP scenario.
Well, and I would say to the shipper side, this will help them too, because they're going to see if they're dealing with people who are paying the carriers correctly, because the shipper has the right to this paperwork under this regulation as well, and they'll be able to see what the broker's actually paying the truck, and to know if they're dealing with people that are treating everybody fairly. Because I would assume as a shipper, I would like to think, I think the shippers I hauled for, they want good quality people hauling their stuff, and they want them paid correctly, so they care. Because we all know if you're not making much, you get this attitude where you don't really care. And I'm sure that shippers want carriers to make a fair shake, so they care about the product and get it from point A to point B as well. And again, I understand with the market's dropping, and truckers understand that too. We know that rates change and fluctuate. It all goes with capacity. I mean, we've been in the longest freight recession ever with this overcapacity.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just all due to overcapacity.
Continue watching on the next episode of the Stay in Your Lane podcast.